I rise today to talk about the topic of gun violence. Time and again, we've heard calls in this chamber for tougher gun safety laws. We've debated ideas that have ultimately fallen short of passage. These were basic reforms that would better protect all Americans. And every time these proposals have failed, more of our communities have fallen victim to violence, to gun violence. There are more and more vigils, more funerals, more questions about how these tragedies keep happening. Today, lawmakers in Washington put forward a set of general principles to guide us as we work to stop the enormous amount of gun violence and gun death in our country. These principles include more thorough background checks, which the vast majority of Americans support. They include closing the various loopholes that make it so easy for criminals, not law-abiding citizens, criminals, to buy guns. And they include cracking down on gun trafficking and making it a federal crime. A bipartisan bill that I've introduced with Senator Kirk. This bill is called the Hadiya, Pendleton, and Nyasia Pryear-Yard Gun Trafficking Crime Prevention Act of 2015, named after two young girls who lost their lives when stray bullets from gang violence killed them. This bill is bipartisan. My main co-sponsor is a Republican because gun trafficking is recognized all around this country as a major source of fuel for American gun violence. Our bill would finally make gun trafficking a federal crime. It would give law enforcement the tools they need to get illegal guns. We are not talking about legal guns. We're talking about illegal guns off the streets and prosecute those who make money dealing in trafficked weapons. Right now, there is no federal law that prevents someone from loading up their truck in Georgia, driving up I-95, and reselling those guns to gang members in New York. These guns go to dangerous criminals. They are not going to our law-abiding citizens. They are not going to hunters in upstate New York. They are going to gang members in New York City, in Chicago, in big cities across this country. We need to make it possible for our law enforcement to do their jobs. I've said it over and over again. Nothing ever happens in Washington until regular people stand up and demand action. They want this nonsense to stop. They want innocent lives not to be lost because of criminals and the mentally ill who can so easily get access to weapons. It is insane that we cannot do common sense gun reform that the vast majority of Americans, the vast majority of gun owners actually support. If you, God forbid, are a parent who's lost a child, we need to hear your voice. If you are a member of law enforcement, we need to hear from you about what has worked and what has not worked. What resources do you need for us to help you do your job? If you are a law-abiding gun owner, we need to hear your ideas about how to prevent criminals from getting their hands on guns. If your life has been affected by gun violence, we need to hear your ideas about how to prevent other people from having to live through the horror that you have lived through. The only way we are going to make our country safer from gun violence is through federal action. Right now, we are stuck with a patch of state laws and local laws, which make it very hard for law enforcement to do their jobs to keep us safe. We urgently need federal gun safety reform. Month after month, year after year, illegal guns tear apart communities in New York and across our country. According to the last federal data, there were 8,539 firearms recovered and traced in my home state in 2013 alone, and that more than 8,500 guns, nearly 70% of them, came from out of state. I cannot say this more strongly. We have to make gun trafficking a federal crime. Give law enforcement the tools they need to keep our communities safe. Stop handing guns over to criminals. We can do this. I yield the floor.